This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you and getting another article that I read from Zero Hedge, a common place I visit regularly to get good news and finding out what's actually going on in the real economy. And they never disappoint. Zero Hedge comes up with a great title here, Anticipating Death Spirals. Here's why shopping malls are in worse shape than you think. Now, people haven't, this holiday season's over, people rarely not been paying attention to the massive amount of retail stores, but they really affect the malls in itself. And this article goes on to shows on why it's even getting worse than we even anticipated. Some things I didn't even find out about. So we dive right in. For the past several months, we've written frequently about the epic collapse at tenor piece of the 1980s retail model, the shopping mall. With the growth of online sales finally starting to take a toll on brick and mortar retailers, shopping malls have faced a tidal wave of store closures and been forced to backfill empty square footage with everything from libraries to doctor's offices. He gives another area where America's desperate malls turn to grocers, doctors, and high schools to fill empty spaces for all the places leaving there. At last, a new report from property research from Green Street Advisors, which analyzed 950 mall locations over 2017, 230 of which were collateralized with commercial mortgage-backed securities, CMBS loans. The financial troubles for American mall owners might be even worse than feared due to organic tenant losses from lease expirations. First, just to put the mall economic model into perspective, Green Street points out that while massive department store closures tend to dominate the headlines, they represent a very small portion of mall income. Now that's something worth to repeat again. Many people don't know this. I didn't even know this. I thought that mostly the anchor stores were creating most of the income. And we find out it's not. Points out that while massive department store closures tend to dominate headlines, they represent a very small portion of mall income. The real financial losses for mall owners come via the ancillary traffic impact on national and regional tenants, which pay off the majority of mall lease income. Facing widespread department store close announcements over last year and a dark prognosis for most industry experts, mall landlords have been doing their best to redevelop vacant boxes and prepare for a future with fewer anchor tenants. Although department store struggles have dominated headlines, they provide only a small portion of malls' net operating income because many anchor tenants own their stores or pay little to no rent. Another good factor here, worth repeating, many anchor tenants own their stores or pay little to no rent. And line tenants therefore have outsized impact on mall net operating income, and their performance offers a preferred indicator of mall health. With shorter lease terms and a higher rent burden, many tenants are making decisions in real time with each mall. The best in line to track are the 300 national tenants who have at least 50 mall locations nationwide and are constantly judging the performance and cost of occupying space with any given mall. While the department stores take up a lot of space, they don't generate much revenue for the mall owner, Sullivan said. The mall owner makes most of its money from the inline tenants. Okay. Now, from the naked eye, that's just some interesting news. But what I want to stress here is that many people don't realize that a lot of pensions and insurance companies rely on malls as the stable source of guaranteed income because it was considered to be a safe investment. So that's why it takes even a bigger toll than what I'm even mentioning here. It's the underlying factor. Of course, many large national tenants, Wet Seal, The Limited, have openly announced store closures, which have presumably already been digested by investors. That said, Greenshed says the far more pressing issue for mall investors is to analyze which stores are quietly shrinking their mall footprints organically by simply choosing to forego lease renewals. As Jim Sullivan of Green Street told Bloomberg, when leases expire, they just don't renew them, as opposed to breaking leases and doing something a bit more aggressive. First, roughly 70% of the 950 malls studied experienced a decrease in the national retailer and line tenants. Second, while the average amount of net closures increased materially at lower quality malls, there was a wide dispersion of net closures impacting malls across the quality spectrum. Third, while having half of the top 25 net closing retailers have a publicly announced closures, the other half are closing relatively quietly and thus present significant risks to the sector. As reported in the media, a wide range of retailers have been downsizing or closing entire brick and mortar footprint. It gives a example of what seals in it. Here's the point. Given that inline tenants have a higher rent per square foot burden and have shorter lease terms, these trends will often occur long before any anchor store closing announcements. Wow. So they occur long before any anchor store. So the main money where they get their money is not from the anchor tenants, it's from these other regional local tenants. Look at, and they do a great chart here showing where the net operating income comes from. Here's where that big chunk is. The anchor tenants make a very small, and the national tenants even bigger. So that's the kicker there. And as I mentioned, these underlying malls and these other things were considered to be safe places, and they were utilized for pensions and insurance companies because they, again, that's supposed to be a guaranteed income with these REITs and stuff like that, real estate investment trusts. And then he goes around the top 25 net closing retailers, mall locations, and he shows another great chart here by Zero Hedge, showing these here. Meanwhile, even though lower quality malls are breaking the brunt of store closures, Green Street notes that A-grade malls are also experiencing significant closures as well. Now, this is usually for the upper middle class and the rich. They're experiencing significant closures as well. Across the 950 mall study, over 2/3 saw a net decrease in the number of national tenants. While A malls perform relatively well, they have not fully escaped the closures due to some retailers shuttering all their locations regardless of mall quality. Furthermore, the most top quality centers already have more of the national retailers as tenants, limiting their ability to find other national tenants to replace those that leave. So not only they're closing them off, and that's not being taken seriously, they can't even find other quality tenants to leave. Conversely, many lower quality centers are seeing significant change in the ability to retain and attract national retailers. Despite already housing fewer national retailers on average than A malls, the trend demonstrates the challenge that many malls are now facing as they fill vacancies with more local and regional tenants. Start off this article, they're trying to find anybody to fill the spaces, but they're having even a harder time with that more. In conclusion, the key takeaway is that it's hard to assess what real estate is worth in the retail sector today. I want to repeat that again. It is hard to assess what real estate is worth in the retail sector today. Inline tenant activity can provide a window into individual mall health. Again, we're going to see some changes. I don't know how the banks are going to hold off of this because they hold a large percent of the debt. And this is going to be, when it takes its toll, it's already taken its toll. It really hasn't been an impact, even though we're seeing different things come up. 2018 is shaping up to be a fantastic, not in the sense of a good thing. It's just a sense of they can't keep this under wraps and keep people with the illusions that everything is going fine. The advisory consulting group's analysis concludes that 70% of malls have suffered a recent decline in the number of national tenants. Understanding which malls are most at risk in a timely fashion is key to anticipating possible death spirals where malls can lose as much as 90% of their value, much more than any other property types. Repeat that and end that again. It is key to anticipate possible death spirals where malls can lose as much as 90% of their value, much more than any other property types. And he shows again here. But we're all sure it will all work out just fine. He's giving a little sarcasm, whoever wrote the article. And Wall Street will go on buying those mall REITs with reckless abandon. Because dividend yields, you got to get the dividend yields, and that's what they're going for. So, again, this is a lack of a better term, a house of cards, and it can collapse. And we're going to have some major changes and headways coming through real soon. So take a look at the article. Until my next video, I'm out.